Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Real People Big Astronomy event. My name is Renee Kerrigan. I am a member of the leadership team of the Big Astronomy program, which is a National Science Foundation funded project that is hoping to help people understand that it takes many people with diverse skills and backgrounds from all over the world to make big science and big astronomy work. This program is an event series that goes along with the planetarium show that was created with the program called Big Astronomy, which you'll have a chance to view a live stream of in 360 degrees on our YouTube channel almost immediately following this program today. But this Facebook Live event series and Zoom series connects our viewers directly with the stars of the show and people, the STEM professionals who work at the observatory. So we're excited to have with us today Celia Verdugo, who works at ALMA as an astronomer and a data analyst. So she'll be telling us about her job and how she got involved in astronomy. We also have a member of our research team with us here today. This method of learning is being researched by Michigan State University as part of the grant. So I'd like to encourage you, if you'd like to learn more about this program, to visit bigastronomy.org and to like us on social media because we have more of these events happening all the time. The next event that we have scheduled is on January 15th, and it is starring Kathy Vivas, who works at the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory. But with that, I would like to say welcome once again to Celia. And I'm going to share my screen because I have a few questions that we'll be asking Celia about her job. So can everyone see? Let's see. I got to make sure I know what people are seeing on the screen. Can you see the presentation? Celia says yes. Great.
Yes.
Okay. Shoot. There we go. Okay. So, Celia, you work as an astronomer and data analyst at ALMA. So, can you just start off by telling us just what that means, what you do at ALMA for your job?
So my role as a data analyst has two main parts. So I spend half of my time working at an office here in Santiago, and mainly processing data. But the other part of the time, so I do the most fun part. I spend it on the telescope. Here in Santiago. I go there every month on regular times, not like this year. But normally I go every month. I spend about a week up there playing a role as an astronomer on duty. That means that I am the person in charge of taking the observations, deciding which projects are going to be observed depending on the current weather and technical conditions. So when I'm at the telescope, I spend most of my time at the control room. There's a big console with many screens, and I work side by side with the array operator, who is the person in charge of actually moving the antennas to the position in the sky where I need to make the observation. Okay. And I do this almost every month of the year, at least once a month. And I spend 8 days in a row at the observatory, and then I go back to my home and rest for 6 days. And the remaining 2 weeks of the month, I spend them at the office in Santiago, processing part of the data that I was in charge of taking at the observatory.
It sounds like you have a interesting and varied job then with all those different aspects of your schedule. So we asked Celia some questions in advance. So we have some of this, we have some pictures to go with. But the first one is pretty simple. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. as I already said, I'm an astronomer. I'm 34 years old. Currently, I'm living in Santiago. I've lived most of my part here in Chile, but I was actually born in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. So I actually have both nationalities. I've been working in Alma for 5 years now on the same position. Um, I'm married. My husband is also an astronomer, so we have a lot in common. We met in college. We've been together for more than 7 years. And as I said before, I spend most of my time, a big part of my time at the telescope itself. One of the things I love the most is actually going to the site where the antennas are. I don't get to do that as much as I would like to. It's a very inhospitable site at 5,000 meters above sea level. It's very dry, it's very cold, but it's also very exciting to see right in front of you the antennas moving, all synchronized towards one point in the sky. And that's something that I would love to do more often, but I cannot do it. Our control room actually is at the campsite, which is at 3,000 meters above the sea level. So it's a bit more comfortable to live there rather than the high side where the antennas actually are.
So your husband is also an astronomer. So did you
Yes.
meet him on the job?
We met in college, actually, many years ago. But somewhere along the road, we decided to drift mine into radio astronomy, and he's an optical astronomer. He works for a project related with the Las Campanas Observatory, also here in Chile. But we do have a lot in common, and we do share many of our tasks, try to solve many of our problems together because there's a lot in common.
That sounds wonderful. And what a good place to be living in Chile. One of the, you could call it the astronomy capital of the world if you're going to have two astronomers in the family, right?
Exactly.
So you've shared a little bit about this, but what can you tell us just a little bit about how you got to where you are today, working as an astronomer and data analyst for ALMA?
Sure. So I spent most of my childhood in Antofagasta, which is a city in the north of Chile, by the coast. And it was really fortunate for me because at that age, I started to get very interested in sciences. And it was about the time where Paranal got the first telescopes, the mirrors for the telescope, and they arrived by ship, and the entire city was so excited about it, but because we got to see them to get loaded into the trucks, and the trucks were moving towards Cerro Paranal so slowly because the mirrors were so fragile, and the truck were moving at a walking velocity. So people were walking right along the truck, looking at the mirrors. It was so exciting. And I think that was one of the first moments when I got so influenced and interested into astronomy. So when I left school, I decided to move to Santiago to study astronomy. I studied at the University of Chile in the engineering faculty. So I studied with many engineers. And then I decided to specialize and do my master's degree also in the same university and in the Cerro Calano Observatory, which is in Santiago. And after I finished my master's degree, I got a scholarship to do my doctorate in Paris at the Observatory of Paris. So I lived there for 3 whole years, actually. It was a wonderful experience. It's a beautiful city. If you ever get the chance to spend some time there, I highly recommend it. And then when I finished my doctorate, I returned to Chile and started working at Alma almost right away on the same position I have right now as a data analyst.
So you actually got to see telescope mirrors arriving, and
Yes,
that's what sparked your interest in pursuing
yes.
this as a career. That's so cool to imagine that. Seeing that probably made it feel very real to you to know that this was this massive new technology arriving and that somebody like you or anyone could be involved in working on it.
It was a really huge experience. I feel so lucky to have grown up in a place where astronomy was so close to people, and it was something so real, and you could go to the telescope and visit them as a visitor, as a regular person, not an astronomer. So here in Chile, we are, for all of us who are interested in this science, we are so lucky to live here.
So can you tell us your favorite thing about your job and why you enjoy it so much?
I think that the part I enjoy the most is where I get to go to the telescope, which, as I said before, in normal times, I get to do that about a week in every month. Last time I was there before the pandemic struck us was last New Year. I spent last New Year's at the telescope. Now I get to spend it here. It's been a strange year. For an entire year, I haven't been to the telescopes, which is so weird. But hopefully, we are going to resume operations very, very soon. I do have my first scheduled shift by the end of January. It's been really exciting because I'm really looking forward to go to the telescope, to see the people again, to sit in the control room and actually do science. It's been a long time.
I understand that. I think a lot of us, our jobs have changed a lot this year, and we're looking forward to having a little bit of a return to how things used to be, hopefully before too long, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I'm going to just get started sharing again because we have an image on the next screen. I apologize. I'm working on figuring out my screen sharing right now. Um, there we go. Okay, so what is your least favorite thing about your job and why?
I guess that I'm probably not the only one here on this topic, but I guess that if I were to choose a least favorite part, it would be meetings. It's not that I hate them, but it's not as fun as actually taking data at the observatory. And it's so easy to get lost in so many meetings that you get to a point that where you ask yourself, is this meeting really useful? Could this meeting have been an email? But I think that this happens to almost everyone at some point in their jobs.
Even working at a museum and not an observatory, you get tired of meetings. That's where I work at a museum. So I think probably a lot of people can relate to being tired of meetings. Um, there we go. So, what about your favorite astronomical object?
Oh, well. So I probably should have mentioned this before. So one of my main topics of research is actually star formation. So I've dedicated myself throughout many years, especially during my doctoral years, to study star forming regions. So to look for places within galaxies uh, beyond our own galaxy, where stars are being born out of big clouds of gas and dust. So everything that is star forming related has my special attention and care for. But when I joined ALMA, I discovered a whole new world, which is also related to star formation, which are protoplanetary disks. These are regions that are surrounding very young stars that have just been formed and have surrounding a disk of material, basically gas and dust, in which new planets are being formed, okay? And ALMA has been a pioneer in imaging these regions with an extraordinary resolution. So here we see one of my favorite objects to observe, which is HL Tauri. It's a protostar at the very center of the picture. And you can see in its surrounding, there's a disk with black circles. Do you see that? So those black lines are actually showing us the passage of a protoplanet that is orbiting the central star, and on its way is actually cleaning and accreting all the material that it encounters. So every time gets bigger, every lap it takes becomes bigger, and after many, many years, there will become a planet, okay? So to actually see the in situ formation of planets within an image, I think is something really, really amazing. It's something that we knew through models that it was how it was going on, but to actually see the image and to see the passage of a protoplanet being formed, that is something really amazing, to
It's
my personal
oh, it's
opinion.
incredible. It's exactly the idea that we knew this was how objects, these solar systems form, to actually see it is probably something
Exactly.
that I know I could never imagine until I saw the image. So it must be very fulfilling to somebody like you who studies star formation. Can you tell us a little bit more about the research that you do as an astronomer?
So right now, I dedicate most of my time to work as a staff astronomer in ALMA. That means that my main job is to observe projects for other researchers around the world who require and have been granted observing time in the observatory. So my main role here is to act as the principal investigator in each one of these projects and take the data for them as if they were for my own project, you see. But I also have a little bit of time to work on research, mostly related to star formation. I'm not working exactly on protoplanetary disks, but rather on a previous stage of star formation, specifically molecular clouds made out of molecular hydrogen and a lot of dust, out of which future stars are going to be born. And I specifically concerned about those regions where it's even more difficult to form stars because there's a low gas density region, because we don't have enough heavy elements to form a star. So I'm trying to look for the most difficult conditions for stars to be born, because we believe that by looking these regions, these difficult regions, we are resembling an earlier stage of the universe. We believe that in the earlier years of the universe, it was even more difficult to form stars as it is now. So by looking to these special regions where it's more difficult to form stars, we believe we can resemble the earlier conditions of a younger universe.
It's fascinating, and probably I'm guessing, but it sounds like being able to act as a staff astronomer and helping other astronomers with their research, um, you would get to learn about other areas of research that are not your specialty as well, which seems like it would be interesting to me.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
All right. Well, you've talked about this a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit about a typical day at your work? And I know 2020, probably there aren't very many typical days at work, but what might a typical day at work look like for you?
So as I said before, I split my time. I spend like half of my time working at the office here in Santiago headquarters, and the rest of the time I'm up at the telescope. But in either of those two situations, I spend a lot of my time working on data science and programming a lot. Normally I use Python as a main language. We have a lot of data science projects that we, not as an individual, but as an entire observatory, are working on to facilitate and to automatize many of our tasks as astronomers, so we can dedicate ourselves to other issues, other problems. So it's been a major task we have faced on, especially this year, where we have all of us been working from home for an entire year. So even though it was a shame not being able to go to the telescope and perform the observation, it's been also a big opportunity to dedicate more time to data science activities. It's been a learning process. We've all been learning together how to maybe create new processes, program new routines, new tasks. We have a shared platform for data science activities. We've been taking courses. We've been learning so much together. It's been both a strange but a wonderful year as well for learning.
I think that's a lovely perspective because so many of us have had difficulties of this year, but there's always things, there's always opportunities, right? So you took the
Exactly.
challenges of 2020 and got some good opportunities out of them. I've noticed from a few other of these Real People Big Astronomy presentations that many astronomers talk about coding as being a part of their job. Would you say that that is a large part of your job and of other astronomers who work at these facilities jobs?
Absolutely, yeah. We work with large databases. We try to look for problems within our processes, our observations. We write a lot of routines to identify issues in many different areas within the telescope. For example, myself in particular, I'm one of the persons in charge of the calibrators catalog for ALMA. So we observe many sources, bright sources in the sky, to be used as a flux calibrator that will, in the future, help us to determine the brightness of a source in the sky. So, for example, when I observe a star and I put a number to its brightness in a flux scale, I need a calibrator to determine that value. So I'm in charge of actually observing and quantifying those calibrators, and we have a big catalog for them. It's a huge database and has allowed us to do many tasks related to data science, how to filter these sources, how to better use them, what are the error measurements, how can they be better used, and more importantly, how can we predict the behavior of these sources in the future, because these sources are not stable in time. Sometimes their brightness increases or decreases. There are sometimes flares that were unexpected. Sometimes they are actually expected because they have a yearly basis period. So we can monitor those behaviors and make predictions for the future. And that takes a lot of programming and coding in different languages as well.
Yeah, I think that's perhaps to people who are not familiar with the job, that might be an aspect of your job that people find surprising. Okay, so you've talked a lot about your work, but we like to try to help people understand that the people who work in science are whole people, that they have lives outside of their jobs. So, can you tell us a little bit about what a typical day at home might be like for you?
Um, there's a lot of music. Me and my husband are big rock fans. In normal periods, we try to go as many concerts as possible. Of course, this year was the exception. We like to travel also as much as we can. We don't like staying at home too much. So this, in that sense, this year has been very weird. But there's also a lot of cooking. I like doing pastry, cooking like the sweet part of our lives. And he's in charge of the barbecues and all the meats and all the hardcore meats related things. As I said, we travel a lot. We have relatives in different parts of the country, so we try to visit them as much as we can. So that's mainly it.
Okay, so this year maybe you didn't have a typical day at home as much as usual because some of your favorite things you didn't get to do. But can you tell us about a favorite subject you had in school?
Well, I guess this is not going to be a big surprise. I think I totally uh, fit into the stereotypes of people relating to sciences. But as a kid, I was very into maths, to physics, to chemistry, to all related sciences. I love doing experiments. I work spending time at the lab. Um, I was a very good student in this subject, so I guess there's no big surprise there.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's interesting to know because not everyone who works in astronomy did love the sciences as a child or when they were in school, but probably many people did. Uh, okay, well, what about your least favorite subject in school?
I guess this is also not a big surprise. I was terrible at gym and educational physics. I really hated it. um, I I do try to stay active and do some of physical activity, but I do not enjoy it actually.
And you talked about this a little bit. You said you and your husband love to go to concerts and travel. So you might have already answered this, but what do you like to do for fun? And maybe if there's anything we didn't mention when we asked about your typical day at home.
Well, lately I've been exploring a lot of in photography, especially in astronomy related photography. Here in Chile, we've been so lucky because we recently had two solar eclipses. Uh, one in last year in July, and the last one just less than a month ago. So I've been trying these solar filters with my camera. It's been so fun trying to catch the corona of the sun, you see. We also been trying a lot to photograph stars. This picture actually that is showing the Alma antennas, I took it about 3 years ago. It was really, really cold. And it took a lot of time, but it was totally worth it. Many of our pictures also try to tell the story about our trips. Last summer, we went to the south of Chile, to the Carretera Austral, and we took so many pictures. So yeah, between concerts and traveling and pictures, those are my hobbies.
Did you get to observe the total solar eclipse that was just in December?
No, actually, I couldn't, but almost. I don't think I know a person who actually was able to, because in the region where the solar eclipse took place, it was super cloudy
Oh, bummer.
that day. So there was a handful of people who were actually on the sweet spot at the right time, at the right place. But I was able to fully observe the solar eclipse last year in La Serena, which is to the north of Santiago, and that was spectacular. I mean, it was such an incredible experience. If you ever have the chance to observe a solar eclipse, if you haven't already, please do. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's an incredible experience. You will see that the sun, which normally you think is like the size of your thumb, looks huge on the sky when it's fully covered by the moon, and you will actually see the corona of the sun. You see, it's like the border of the sun shining so bright. So if you have the chance, please do. You won't regret it. It is a wonderful experience.
I have to second that. I've been lucky enough to see two total solar eclipses. I actually was in Chile to see that one last July on the beach in La Serena, and it was amazing. And then we had one in the United States in 2017 that I was able to observe as well. So yes, I agree with Celia. If you have an opportunity to see a total solar eclipse, make sure you do. And did you say? I think you did. You said you took this beautiful picture of Alma with the stars. That's an incredible picture. That must have.
I actually taken all the pictures in the slide.
Wow. Well,
These are real pictures from real concerts and real stars.
well, Celia, thank you so much for sharing with us today a little bit about your job and your life. both with astronomy and outside of astronomy. It's always so interesting to hear about people's jobs and what they enjoy about their jobs. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us that we didn't have an opportunity to talk about?
Mainly that don't waste any chance you might get to look at the stars in a clear and bright sky. Um, there are so many apps on your phone that you can use to identify constellations and planets. And just recently, we had this huge opportunity to see the conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. They were so close, almost kissing each other. It was so beautiful. Don't miss out these kind of events. They're so beautiful. The sky is providing us with so many beautiful images and opportunities. Don't miss it if you get the chance.
Uh, yes, I agree. The conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn was a wonderful thing to observe in the sky. So, to any of our viewers on Facebook or here in Zoom, if you have any questions for Celia about her job or about astronomy, please just leave them in the comments. We'll let them pop up for a few moments here. So, if anybody has any questions, just leave them in the comments. I'm just looking through now to see if we have any posted. I don't see any so far. So I'd like to just briefly now introduce Shannon Schmoll, Dr. Shannon Schmoll, who is a part of the research team on this project, and she'll talk a little bit about the research.
Hey everyone. So like Renee said, this is an NSF funded project. And so part of that is we are conducting education research around the Big Astronomy project. So if you'd like to help us out with that, we would really love it if you could. There's two ways you can do that. One is by filling out a survey, which is linked in the comments or the chat. If you do that, you'll get you'll be entered to win a $10 Amazon gift card. The other option is to join me in a Zoom focus group right after this to talk about it, and you'll be guaranteed a $5 Amazon gift card. So if you'd like to help us out, we would really appreciate it. And thanks very much.
We did have a question up on Facebook asking if this will be archived somewhere for people to view later, and yes, absolutely. We put the recordings of these programs on our YouTube channel, Big Astronomy on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch this later. It will also stay up on Facebook, so you'll be able to watch it on Facebook if you're watching there. I'd just like to thank you again, Celia, for telling us about your job at ALMA and also sharing with us a little bit about your life. It's been really interesting to hear from you, and I know I find it inspiring to hear from people like you who are working in science every day and also have such interesting lives outside of your interesting job. So thank you for sharing with us today. And I hope you have a great day. So for everyone who's in our Zoom room, I'm going to leave it up for just a moment so that you can click on those links and maybe join in the focus group or fill out that survey. But I'd like to close by reminding you that we'll be live streaming a 360 version of the Big Astronomy film, Big Astronomy People, Places, Discoveries, on our YouTube channel, and that'll happen very shortly. And also that we have more of these events coming up. The next Real People Big Astronomy event is coming up on January 15th, and you can find out more by following us on Facebook or by visiting bigastronomy.org and signing up for our newsletter. There's a way to sign up at the bottom of the page. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Happy holidays and have a wonderful day.